I want to talk about the inner demons that we face as entrepreneurs. And there are things that I've seen over my experience of being an entrepreneur for the last 10, 15 years that consistently come up and they get in the way of my ability to get stuff done. They get in the way of my happiness. They get in the way of me being the best version of me, be that person or husband or CEO or leader or friend out there. And so I want to name these elements, and then I want to have a discussion around how they have shown up for me and find out how these also have shown up for you. We know that the goal here is remove the kinks from the hose, build our capacity so that we're creative, we're innovative, we're not stuck in comparison mindset, we're not stuck in scarcity mode, we're not stuck in freak out mode, we're not stuck in reptile brain or anything like that. So that's where we all want to go. And there are things that sometimes get in our way. Let me explain what those are, starting with burnout. This is the one that hits us the most. Now, burnout is really interesting because a lot of people have an incorrect understanding of what burnout is. They'll say, well, burnout is just, I get tired or I'm exhausted, and all I need to do is I need to go spend a week in Mexico on the beach, and that's going to perk me back up, and I'm going to be back at it. And in fact, burnout is based on physical, mental, and spiritual attributes. So I can be physically exhausted, which is a part of burnout. I can be mentally totally checked out and cynical, which is part of it. And then I can be no longer effective in my role, which is part of burnout as well. And a lot of us have experienced this, and it can come suddenly, it can come slowly, I can get out of it quickly, or I can get out of it very, very gradually. Point being, as entrepreneurs, we have to be able to recognize and see what's happening, when it's happening, and what might I do about it. So what might I do? What steps might I be able to take about this? And so there's this medical definition of burnout, which says you're exhausted, you're cynical, and you're no longer effective. And then there's also the view that says burnout is not just a result of stress that you're feeling in your body, or it's not just a result of working too hard. Burnout happens when I'm disconnected from what I'm really meant to be doing. Burnout happens when I'm not operating in my zone of genius. Burnout happens when I'm working on stuff I think I should be doing instead of what I actually want to be doing. So all the activities of my day are taking energy away from me instead of giving me energy. And so for me, when burnout has hit, the one that comes up for me the most is the second point, which is cynicism. Like when I get hit with burnout, I do not give a fuck. Like whatever it is, I don't care. And then when that happens, guess what? I feel guilty that I don't care. And then I get in this spiral that says, well, hang on, I'm the CEO. I'm supposed to be the face of this and doing X, Y, Z and getting all excited. I'm tired. My energy is depleted. I no longer care what's happening out there. I must not be a good CEO. I must not be a good person. I must be totally useless. And all this happens in about 0.4 seconds, right? But that's how it manifests for me. For some people, burnout manifests as like they just don't get out of bed, they won't move, type of thing. For me, it's that disconnection or cynicism that strikes. And when it strikes, I can feel it, I can tell I'm not a good person, I'm not a nice person, and then I want to say, well, so what do I do about it? Right? What are the avenues that I can take? What are the things I might be able to do to remedy this? And the one that I always go back to is what I was just referring to. If burnout really is partly a symptom of I'm not doing things that are in my zone of genius, how can I get back there? How can I find the things that light me up? How can I do the things that I'm uniquely gifted at? The things that only I can bring to the world? How can I spend not just 10 or 20%, but 70, 80, 90% of those things that give me energy, give me fuel, help me to build my capacity? So for me, burnout hits, and I really want to find ways to deal with it and have it not hit so often. The second demon I want to share with you is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is feeling like I wasn't invited to the party. Like I just snuck in here. I don't know how I got in. Nobody knows I wasn't invited. I'm just going to hang out and pretend like I belong. And imposter syndrome is a result of us making up all these stories that we're not worthy, that we're not right, that whatever we've done in the past was somehow a hiccup, that whatever accomplishments we have in our lives aren't really real. We just somehow coasted through or made it without anybody noticing or figuring out that we were a fraud. Imposter syndrome is entirely our super egos telling us a false story that we've probably been carrying around since we were 3 years old or 5 years old or something like that, that we don't belong. And the nice thing about imposter syndrome is you can challenge it, you can shine some light on it, and you can find that it goes away. You can find that it doesn't survive the light of day if, of course, we have the awareness to question it. So it's not just enough for us to say, okay, I'm living in imposter syndrome. We then say, I'm aware of it. And then simply ask ourselves, is the story that my inner critic is telling me, is the story true? Is it true that I don't belong here? Is it true that I'm not the same as this person, that I'm not as worthy as this person, that I don't have such and such accolades or credentials or whatever it is that I've done? And as soon as we start to shine some light around imposter syndrome, we can see it goes away, it starts to dissolve. Won't necessarily go to zero, but it'll start to dissolve for us. But what imposter syndrome does is it keeps me from going out there and expressing myself. It keeps me from going out there and being creative. It keeps me from going out there and doing the things that I want to do in the world because somehow I think that I don't deserve it, that I don't belong. So when I hit imposter syndrome, I wind up comparing myself to everybody else in the room. Oh, such and such raised more money. Oh, such and such has a nicer car than me. Oh, such and such, whatever it is, has a bigger company, all this sort of stuff. That's what imposter syndrome looks like for me. That's how it comes up, and it makes me feel small, and therefore I'm less effective. And if I can start to shine some light on it, then I can break out of that one. The third demon for us to tame here today is what we call upper limiting. Upper limiting is not something that I made up. This comes from Dr. Gay Hendricks. I referenced him yesterday. He was with us in November here in Boulder doing an incredible workshop. Upper limiting is the issue that I simply won't allow myself to experience positive feelings on a consistent basis as a way to elevate my energy all the time. So to put this another way, upper limit means I purposely create conflict, problems, and friction in my life as a way of reinforcing the story that I have in my subconscious that I don't deserve to feel this good. Meaning, if something great is happening, and I think, oh wow, something awesome just happened. It could be personal, it could be business, it could be whatever it is. Something great is happening. I feel my energy elevating, and then right, bang, I do something to block it. I could get in a fight with somebody, I could get sick, I could have an accident, I could be in some type of conflict, whatever it is that helps me get back to the energy level I think I should be at, whatever I deserve to be at. Again, this is an old story that I have inside me, that you have inside you, that says, if you're not worthy, you shouldn't be able to feel this good. And if you do start to feel good, then we've got to go do something to make sure you get back in your place. Go back in the box. That's what upper limiting is. And I always found this weird. Like, it was hard for me to understand, like, what does this actually mean? Does this mean people don't really feel good? Like, something great happens and I'm not able to go out there and celebrate? And then I realized, you know what? As my wife reminds me often, I don't celebrate stuff. Like, good things happen, big things, medium things, small things, and I don't celebrate them. Is that an upper limit? Probably. That's me saying, yeah, I know that was great, but it wasn't all me, or it wasn't, it was just kind of an accident, or it just happened. I didn't have anything to do with it. These are ways that I upper limit myself. And so what do we do about upper limiting? A lot of that actually comes back to zone of genius as well. The idea that I can start to allow energy to flow. I can allow energy to flow through me. I can give myself permission to feel good. I can give myself permission to be. I can give myself permission to celebrate whatever it is that's happening in my life. The fourth one I want to share is struggle mindset. Everything has to be hard. It's not worth it if it doesn't come with blood on my knuckles. Then it wasn't worth it. Everything is a fight. Everything is some gigantic effort. And this comes from family history for many of us, right? We've heard these stories. Maybe we have, like I'll share one from my family. I've got this family story, this family history that says, my grandfather in Ireland, poor family in Western Ireland, got on a boat at age 19, sailed across the Atlantic Ocean to Springfield, Massachusetts, worked in the utility company in Springfield, Massachusetts. He had to work on Christmas. He had to work on New Year's Eve. He worked all the time. He brought up his family in Massachusetts. He never saw his mother again. From the age 19 onwards, he never laid eyes on his mother again. So what's the story behind that? The story behind that is life is valuable. His life was valuable. My life is valuable because there's struggle, because it was difficult, because it was hard, because it took blood, sweat, and tears. And all that translates into us in the entrepreneurial journey saying, this has to be difficult. I can't allow it to just be. I can't allow things to be smooth and easy. I always have to be out there trying and striving and pushing a rock up a hill. And so for me, this comes up a lot. This comes up a lot because I'm like, if it's not hard, then maybe I'm not really putting enough into it. Or if it's not hard, it's not worthwhile. Or if it's not hard, nobody's going to care about it. And as my coach Jason, who's sitting around here, often tells me, when you go to a restaurant and you order something, you order some soup at a restaurant, do you ask the waiter how much suffering went into the soup? When you go buy a new car, do you say, how hard was it? How much did they suffer and struggle putting my car together? I only want to buy the car that has the maximum amount of suffering in it. No, that's not what we do. But somehow, that's what I do. It's what a lot of us do. It's like we think that we're out here and we have to be working and struggling and striving and heads down and doing all these difficult things all of the time. And the invitation here is, what can we do instead? How can we allow things to come into our life? How can we allow things to be easy? How can we allow things to just flow?